In this video, I'm going to be going over the practice sentences for the practice exam that I've given on Canvas, chapters 1 through 24. And as per usual, I'll have some embedded items here so that you can obviously benefit by earning free and easy 100. The thing about these sentences that is going to be a little bit different is that they are going to have participles in them. And I want you to make sure that you are aware that when you see a participle, even though it comes from a verb, it is not a verb. Now, we're going to look at the left-hand side over here and just quickly review what kind of participles. Now, all of these participles are going to be from our verb ago, agere, egi, actus. You've got the present active participles that will have the ns or the nt plus third declension endings. You have the perfect passive participle, which is the fourth principal part, actus, acta, actum, that have first and second declension endings. And then the other two participles are over here. They are the future active participle, which is nothing but the perfect passive participle with the UR shoved in the middle, and then the future passive participle with an ND. To review their translation very briefly, about to be verbed, about to be driven, about to drive, not be, and then over here we have having been driven and driving, and hopefully as we encounter them I will obviously translate them and refer back. So let's look at number one, hic calpo. Remember that very often you can have a third declension variant form that has a long O but it's not an ending. So, hic with a short I, this wicked innkeeper. And then I'm going to find my verb. I get to yakianes. Yakianes is from a verb, yakio, yakare, but it is not a verb. I look to see, is it a nominative that could possibly be modifying the innkeeper? And indeed it is. Now I know to the form of the ns, it's present active participle. So which innkeeper? This wicked innkeeper, the one throwing manure on top of that body. Supra is on top of, and it's from that story chapter in which the murder took place in the motel. This is the accusative direct object because it is a third declension neuter variant form. So, which innkeeper? The one throwing. Now, very often people would see this and they would say that the innkeeper throws or is throwing. No, it is a participle, and you've got to translate it as such. That is our subject, that's our verb. So, this wicked innkeeper, the one throwing manure on top of that body, the innkeeper tried to hide dead Alice in the wagon, in plaustro. Cum, that's not an ablative, when Septimus will find, if I see I long E, will find the body, and again body is accusative, even though it has a US, not an ending, it's the variant form. When Septimus, the subject, will find the body of his own dead friend, mortui sui amici, he ponet. Ask the question every time you see the E. Pono, ponere, and you will have the vocabulary of the translation given to you on the exam. He will place those flowers in plus accusative into this body. Remember, the prepositions can only have ablative ending, or I should say ablative objects or accusative objects. This is definitely not ablative, it's that variant neuter accusative. Dende, then he will give, and of course this is one of those ditransitive verbs, give, show, speak, or tell. He will give orders, the accusative direct object, to the citizens, indirect object dative, and he will give the orders to drag out the body presumed, to drag it out of the manure and out of the wagon. So to drag it out from the wagon. Number two, Euclides is our subject. So Euclides, and I'm going to look for a verb, there it is, a pluperfect verb, had told many things, the direct object. Now, give, show, speak, or tell, gotta ring the dative bell. It's a ditransitive, it'll have an accusative direct object and a dative indirect object receiving the direct object. Had told many things to Marcus and que to Sextus, many things about the ludi circenses. These are the chariot races. The boys, however, did not believe him. There's a whole set of verbs whose objects are going to be in the dative case. These special verbs that we have encountered before, and there they are, Apropinquo, faveo, noceo, pareo, confido, and so forth and so on. Here you can see credere. They take datives because the nature of their meaning is going to have a ditransitive to it. Because when you believe somebody, you are giving belief to them. And so that's exactly what we have in our sentence here. The pueri, the boys, did not believe him, the dative him, because Euclides loved his own books, not the games of them. Doom. Then they walked, not I go, and it's not going to be by with because of from, in, on, at, him, it, this or that, but rather the adverb thither. Then, or while they walked thither, they were walking thither, they saw, and since it's they as the subject, themselves in the fountain, like the reflection of the water, near the arch of Tiberius. Next sentence. Cum with a Cornelius, and so therefore it does not have the meaning with, but rather the meaning when. So, make sure it's in the good view, there it is. When Cornelius heard the consulta, the advice. Now, senatus has a long US. That is either genitive singular of the Senate. And let's be clear, the word Senate, senatus, is not the same as senator. That's the actual person. It's either of the Senate or the many senates do something as the nominative plural, or the accusative something verbed the senates. Well, here I think it makes most sense to say when Cornelius heard the advice of the Senate itself, he said, or he did say. And by the way, your first item to embed while I'm thinking about it, I'd forgotten for just a second, there is actually found in number 2, the fourth word, raise, R-E-S. Spell it correctly, R-E-S. That's your first item. Continuing on with number 3. So again, when Cornelius heard the advice of the Senate itself, he said to them, our emperor, whom we, and I know it's we because of the most, whom we ourselves love, our emperor has given these orders to us. Dative indirect object receiving the commands. Now, we, O senators, in the vocative talking directly to him, we, and I know it's we because of the mus, we will obey. Pareo, parere, is not the same as paro, parere. But again, you'll have all of the principal parts and the vocabulary for here. It's one of those special words that take a dative object, and so it means to obey. We will obey his orders, or the orders in the dative case object of him. Number 4. Geta often did not obey, so the same verb is what we have here, and again it takes a dative object. He did not obey Davus because he does not want to serve, and this is another one of those special verbs that require a dative object, another slave. And after the other men, the other people, had gone, this is your verb eo ire, and it is eo ire ee. And so here we have the third principal part, the perfect stem, with your pluperfect ending erant. That is your second item, I-E-R-A-N-T, erant. Spell it correctly. After the other people had gone to the fields, Geta immediately fled. I know this is escape, as in perfect tense, because of the long U. Fugio, fugere, fugi. Cum no ablative. When Davus will have spotted, it is will have, E-R-A on a perfect stem, will have spotted the slave. And it is modified by inventum. That is the fourth principal part of invenio, invenire, meaning to find. And so it tells us what kind of slave? The one having been found by the dogs. So when Davus will have spotted the slave, having been found by the dogs, perfect passive participle modifying slave, he will beat the miserable slave with a stick. Even with the vocabulary, there could be many errors that you make due to the fact that you're simply trying to piece it together in a sentence in your way by applying the vocabulary. You have got to know the forms. The forms are what is going to make the difference for you. Number 5, Cornelius. And I go looking for my verb. I'm going to stop right there because it comes from a verb, naro, narare, but it is not. It is a future active participle. You see, and remember the future active participle translates about to verb. Now, I normally wouldn't stay. I'd move on to go and look and find my verb. But since it is nominative, I'm going to go ahead and deal with it as it is modifying Cornelius. So Cornelius, the one about to tell. You so often as students want to say Cornelius tells, Cornelius will tell. No. Will tell is a verbal expression, a verb. Instead, it is the translation about to tell. The about to tell the story of the soldier to his wife Cornelius. Or Cornelius, the one about to tell the story of the soldier to his wife. Cornelius handed over money. That is a ditransitive verb, perfect tense with a perfect ending. Handed over money to the dative innkeeper, the one stanti. That again is from sto stari, meaning to stand, and it tells us which innkeeper. To the innkeeper, the one standing at the door of the motel. So, future active participle, you are as a part of the form, present active, nt plus a third declension ending. Make participles do what participles do. They're adjectives, they modify. After the story, or not story, after the soldier had told the story to Cornelius, que, and to the boys, these are the datives who are receiving the direct object, they are the indirect object. This is not an infinitive because I see a perfect stem. They did not believe him. Again, one of those special verbs. In the principal parts, on the list I will give to you, after you get the principal parts listed, plus dative, telling you that it has a dative object instead of an accusative. They did not believe him, and because it's the alternate ending of erunt, but, however, they wanted, and again, that's not an infinitive because I see the U of the perfect stem. They wanted, they did want, they have wanted to hear another story. Number 6. If the motelier, the nominative innkeeper, I'm going to find my verb, there it is. Again, this verb to harm, nokeo nokere, if I would pull up the dative study guide, you would see it's in that list of those that take a dative object. If the innkeeper will have harmed the dative boys and the dative other travelers at night, immediately the soldier will not obey the innkeeper. That again is those verb, one of them that takes a dative object, because Cornelius favors implied him. So, fawet is faweo fawere, and I messed it up. I thought that was a US. That is a long IS, and that is yet another one of those verbs that takes a dative. He will not obey the innkeeper because he favors, and I said it was the second conjugation, if you heard me say the principal parts, fabio favere, he favors the Cornelians. He gives favor to the Cornelians, and that is your third item to put in. Fawet, the last verb of number 6. F-A-V-E-T. Spell it correctly. So, moving on to number 7, so that this hopefully will not be that long of a video. So, postquam capo. After the innkeeper, the one simulans. That's a present active participle, and I will stop there because it is nominative, modifying, and telling me what kind of innkeeper. So, it does not say, after the innkeeper is pretending innocence. No, not is pretending. That's a verb. Instead, you say, after the innkeeper, the one pretending innocence, after he, that guy, had killed his guest, had with the pluperfect ending, he placed, did place, has placed the body of dead Aulus under the manure. Again, we would see, if you were a student who is not looking at the form, just the vocabulary, you see the word dead, you see the word body, you want to put them together. Dead body, no. the body of dead Alice. Make sure that you have it modifying when it modifies. Same case, number, and gender. When the boys heard, did hear, have heard, perfect tense, this part of the story having been told. A perfect passive participle. And this part of the soldier's story, apostrophe as genitive, the one having been told, they were afraid, they feared very much. A perfect passive participle, modifying it. Which story? The one having been told. Number 8, the pueri. The boys having been ordered. I was going to looking for a verb, but I saw a perfect passive participle, and it is modifying my subject. The boys, the ones, having been ordered to go to bed. You rely on the vocabulary, you're going to say something wrong like the boys ordered, it wouldn't work out. So it's the boys, having been ordered to go to bed, they wanted, the alternate erund, to stay, remain, wait, with Cornelius. Cum Cornelio, cum with an ablative will mean with. See, long ere, but how do I know that that is not an infinitive, but rather the alternate ending for the perfect they verbed, did verb, have verbed? It's on a perfect stem. Not a perfect stem, that's just a regular infinitive. For they did have in mind to see and to hear all things. Again, not a perfect stem, so not an alternate ending. Because Cornelius will not send, mito mitere, third conjugation. You'll be able to see on the vocab sheet the principal parts of the verb. Check it to make sure you get the tense right. Because Cornelius will not send the boys. Now, as I saw Cornelius, I was going along and I saw that that was from a verb, cupio cupere, to desire. But it is not a verb, nor is it modifying Cornelius, and so I kept moving to mitet. Because Cornelius will not send the boys. Which ones? The present active participle. The ones desiring to stay awake, because he will not send them to their bedrooms. They will be ero, eris, erit, erimis, eritis, erunt, when it is not an ending, but rather the future of the verb to be, unt instead of an int. They will be happy, as it were. So, moving on to number 9. But your next item, your fourth item, is just simply the verb mittet. M-I-T-T-E-T. That's your fourth item to put in. Number 9, and there are only 2 more. Hang in there. Cum Cornelii. Cum, look for the ablative. That is not an ablative, Cornelii. And so you move on and say when. When the Cornelians, perfect stem, future perfect ending, will have departed from the country house and will have approached the city. City is in the dative case because that's one of those special verbs that take a dative object. Cornelius, that is from a verb, but it is not a verb, and I'm going to stay there because it is modifying Cornelius. Cornelius, the guy about to depart to Rome, he will hand over, trotto trottere, make sure you check on the vocab sheet the principal parts, the stick, to davus, the accusative direct object, the indirect object, receiver of the direct object. If geta, if I see I long e, and it is the verb to serve. If geta will not serve davus, it takes dative objects, and again you will see the principal part, plus dat. Davus will harm geta in the dative because that verb takes a dative object. To harm, to give harm to. And Davus will harm geta with a stick. Davus will not spare, parco, parcere, it'll be on the vocab sheet, slaves who will not obey. And again, parco gives or takes a dative object, and pareo takes a dative object. He will not spare slaves who will not obey the mandates, the orders of Cornelius. Moving on to number 10. We're almost done. Thanks for watching. You get a free 100 and you're studying for your exam. Soon, mokes, necesse erit. It will be necessary. Now, whenever I say it as my subject, it's not really. It's the act of going back. Soon, it will be necessary For the dative third declension, variant ISI, father of Marcus. Note how father and Marcus both have I's, but that is a third declension word, and thus a dative, and that is a second declension word, and thus a genitive. Soon it will be necessary for Marcus's, apostrophe S, or the father of Marcus, to go back home. But first, the emperor, looking for my verb, will give accusative orders, neuter plural, to the senators in the Senate House about the roads of the city. Do you see how long is is the ablative object of the preposition day? Short is is the genitive. Titus, the uncle of Marcus, already had heard, pluperfect, the orders of the emperor. Therefore, he did not come, he has not come, venire, ventus, to the Senate House. Simple as that. And finally, your last one. And mercifully, it is all over. On the journey, I'm looking for my subject, and that is from a verb, sedeo sedere, but that is not a nominative form. Remember that a third declension ending is what is going to be on the stem ending with nt of a present active participle, but there we are. So, on the journey, Sextus will tell, it's a ditransitive verb, I need to find an accusative direct object, all things, and whom? To Cornelia. And I know that that AE is the dative because ditransitive verb, accusative direct object, dative indirect object. And now I know what sedenti with that dative ending is modifying. To Cornelia. Which one? The one sitting in the minivan. And he will tell all things to her, the one sitting in the minivan, about the dead mouse, the one having been found, perfect passive participle, under the bed. Afterwards, Cornelia does not believe, and one of those verbs that takes a dative object, does not believe Sextus. And your last word in the video to get the Easy 100 is the last verb that is there, credit. C-R-E-D-I-T. Make sure you don't spell it. Make sure you translate participles as participles and don't turn them into verbs, because even though you will have the vocab on the exam, that is dangerous because you just try to string together the English meanings instead of what you should be doing, which is looking at the form. The most important thing is the form. I do not see minivan. I see ablative object of in, translating in and not into. That's what you need to do first and foremost. Good luck. You have your items to embed. We start the exam Monday.